I lost 2 roosters and one is injured because of a mistake that I made. I've been raising up roosters here on the farm, and I've been so worried about them fighting with each other that when they stopped going into the coop and refused to go in there and were fighting me about going into the coop, I decided that since we've never had a predator on this farm that has caused any issues, aside from the occasional hawk flying over, I thought that it would be safer for them to not fight with each other in the coop, to allow them to have outside access all night long. And unfortunately, I made a mistake by allowing them to stay out at night because a predator got into our chicken run. Our chicken run is surrounded by pallet fencing as well as wire fencing and topped with poultry netting. I went on vacation for the holidays and had a pet sitter coming to check in on the animals 3 times a day. And of course, your worry when you go away is that something's going to happen to your animals while you're away. And it did. And it's completely my fault because I told my pet sitter to leave these particular roosters that were in this area out because they had been quarreling with each other and they did not want to be in the coop confined with each other, and so they were doing well having their own space roosting on the pallet fences out here overnight, and I did not have any issues with predators. And that seems to always be the case, that you don't have the issue until you do. My family and I had gone away for a holiday vacation, and we had left the farm in our very capable pet sitter's hands, and we got the call that she had come back to the farm in the evening, and when she went to open this gate to the rooster pen, she noticed a rooster was right by the door, and she was trying to coax him to move, but then realized that he was dead. And then when she opened the gate to look, she saw that there was a lot of blood and there was a second dead rooster. So she thought that they had fought and that they both died. And so she took care of the bodies for me. I came right home from vacation, and when I came home, I'm thinking that the roosters had been fighting and that I'm going to have to figure out some alternate housing arrangements for them, because that's been my fear, is that the roosters would fight to the death, because I have so many roosters here and I had been leaving them out at night because they had been fighting so much inside the coop. There had been a lot of quarreling and they didn't want to go in the coop at night. And so that was my mistake, is having the roosters out at night. That is the mistake that I made because it wasn't a rooster fight, because it was a predator that had come into the run. When I did get home, I came right out to check on the roosters. So when I came out to the chicken run, I found a rooster injured, and I brought him into the house and I looked him all over. He had blood all around his neck, and when I parted the feathers, I saw that he had puncture wounds in 3 spots on his neck. And after seeing that, I said, there's no way that this is like a rooster fight, because looking at my injured rooster and then looking at the injuries on my 2 deceased roosters, one of the roosters was completely decapitated. And I find it hard to fathom that one of the roosters would have decapitated another rooster. And I inspected the rest of the roosters in the flock here, and nobody else had a drop of blood on them at all. There was no blood at all. They all seemed to be staying away and definitely nervous. So then I started inspecting the run to see if there were any signs of a predator gaining entry, and that's when I found that there was a tear in the netting up above, and the fence curved, like something had climbed or landed on the fence and came through the netting on the top. So after tending to the wounds of my injured rooster, I came out and I set up a motion activated camera in the rooster run in hopes of catching the predator as it came back. And the camera did catch movement, but the video is really grainy. The camera did catch an image, and when zooming in, it's really grainy, but it does look like the reflection from an eye of an animal. And unfortunately, over the past week, it hasn't picked up any motion inside of the coop. When watching it live, my husband could see glowing eyes flying through the trees near the coop. And so since the attacks happened at night and we're seeing a bird flying through the trees in the evening near our coop, and the netting was ripped on the top, our best guess is that an owl got in and decapitated our chicken and killed the other rooster and injured our third rooster. I feel terrible that the roosters went through such an awful ordeal, and moving forward, I know that for their safety, roosters have to be inside of a locked coop to keep them safe from predators. So the lesson I learned is roosters are going to fight, and I was able to separate 5 of them out into their own separate area, and then I had 12 in this area. But honestly, going forward, if I ever have that many roosters again, I'll separate into a third area and try to keep the numbers down, just to try to keep the quarreling to a minimum and to be able to completely close them in at night. Unfortunately, even with no females in here, the quarreling was still occurring, and so that's roosters. Roosters do fight. It's been over a week now since the attack, and our wounded rooster, who we thought we were going to lose, is still alive, and the wounds are actually healing, and so we're hopeful that he'll make a full recovery from the injuries. Sadly, we lost the 2 roosters, and then the other 9 roosters that we had in this run, we knew that we wouldn't be able to keep grown roosters long term in here. They were 6 months old, and the fighting was only going to get worse, and so we scheduled them to go to a poultry processing plant, and so they have been processed, and now we have homegrown food to feed our family. But I wanted to put this out there that if you're raising chickens, it's safest for them to be put into a coop at night when the sun goes down, to get them in there locked up tight so that the predators can't get to them in the evening. That's how I've always raised my chickens until this particular group of roosters over the last few weeks. They were just fighting too much. I honestly should have scheduled them to go to the processing plant sooner than 6 months of age because of the quarreling, and had there been dates available at the poultry processing plant, I would have done so. So lots of lessons learned here: to lock your poultry up at night if you're going to house lots of roosters, to have different housing options for them to keep the numbers down, and to be able to lock them in at night. And if you're going to process them, get your processing date scheduled way in advance if possible. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. So don't make the mistake that I did, because it'll cost you your chickens.